Welcome to TechThings. Here we have two 8mm video cassettes. Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom and Arnold in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. These are pretty neat little cassettes. One has a wraparound label. It looks pretty much like any other 8mm video cassette, except this one is mass produced and obviously a pre-recorded one. Fantastic shape, these. This one is actually sealed. I'm going to keep it that way just because I'm just that type of nerd. And here we have a faulty player for 8mm cassettes. It is a Memorex. Whatever that's good for. To me, it's good for junk. These things really are cheap. It's nice and flimsy. It doesn't feel very substantial. It looks substantial on the inside. It doesn't look terribly cheap, but the magic smoke was forcibly removed from, let's see, it was one of these resistors in here. I'm not sure which one, but it was from this area around here that the magic smoke was removed. You may be able to see it a little bit better. I may be able to see it, yeah, right there. You can see, right in that area right there. You can see blackness and smokiness was emanating from that area. This did work at one point. It did play movies. I tested it with Terminator 2. The problem is the flying head here, the video head, it's tight. When I opened it up, I thought it was stationary, but it does indeed spin. It just gets stuck, and I think this is just a terrible player to begin with. I'll probably find a Sony deck to complete my obscure video format collection, including CED, Laserdisc, Beta, and SVHS. But this one is not going to be that one, because I frankly don't feel like fooling with it anymore. I screwed with it for some time trying to get it to work again, and the removal of the magic smoke negated any efforts I made at fixing it, so I'm just going to say screw it. Relegate it to the scrap heap. This, however, when I saw this thing at the thrift store, I'm a cassette weirdo. I grew up with cassettes. I saw this little thing at the thrift, and initially I passed it over because I thought it was just another cheap cassette deck. It's an Aiwa. But three letters drew me over to it. It has DBX noise reduction, which is a somewhat obscure and fairly it is fairly obscure for commercial cassette decks to have DBX noise reduction. This one, I want to say it's a mid-90s model. It's an AD-WX808. I didn't do my research. It looks like a mid-90s model, maybe early 90s. It does work. Well, I use the word work loosely. It powers up, as you can see. But when I first got it, this deck was stuck shut, and I figured out that the mechanism inside, the magic flashlight, once it decides to power on, there we go. The mechanism inside, the heads were stuck in the up position, so I was able to, it was in the stop mode, I was able to push them back down by hand carefully, and it was then able to open on its own without any, obviously somebody, not me personally, because I stuck something plastic in there to try to prise this open, but somebody obviously had used something metal, because you can see the obvious, I don't know what somebody would use, knife maybe, obvious markings on the deck to get it open. It popped open fairly easily for me with just, I used a plastic butter knife, and popped it open carefully. If I had not felt the level of give I did, I would not have popped it open with that. I would have opened it up, which is indeed what we're going to do. When I first noticed this, I thought, wow, it's really scratched up top. I mean, I've never seen a metal top of a cassette deck look this bad. Initially, I was turned off by that. But then I noticed something interesting when I touched the top of it. That's not metal, that's plastic. This piece of equipment still has the plastic protective covering. So, I thought it would be kind of cool to remove that here on this video, because I really don't... It's already partially removed, and I want to see what it looks like without it. I think it'll look nice. We're also going to open this thing up and find out why the motors don't spin. I'm assuming there's a worn belt, or a belt maybe has fallen off inside. I would imagine that a deck with DBX noise reduction would have separate motors for each deck. Neither one actually plays. They light up like they're going to. There's a tape inside here. Def Leppard Hysteria, which has pretty much my, yeah, thanks Siri. I don't know why that initiated Siri. It has my, let's see here. No, it doesn't have my favorite Def Leppard song on it. This is Hysteria, not the earlier one. My favorite Def Leppard song, and which is saying something because I'm not really a huge fan, is Foolin'. But this does not have that on there. Although it has Love Bites, which is a guilty pleasure, I guess you would say. But that was in the deck when I bought it. And I tried it out. It did not play. It clicks. It makes noise. Something's in there spinning. If I hit stop, it stops. But it doesn't play. So what I'm going to do is toss this on the tripod. It's paint, by the way. It's not anything else on the wall there. Wonderful. This is a rented house, so I'm not terribly excited by that. But what I'm going to do is put this up on the tripod, and we're going to take off the plastic and then remove the case. We'll probably do that in reverse order, because I don't really feel like taking off the plastic from the metal, immediately putting it on top of something and having it scratch. Not like it's in mint condition anyway, but you know, just be careful about it. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, got my trusty flashlight, well, okay, cell phone here that has a flashlight option, and my trusty screwdriver, and we're going to go ahead and open this up. I'm fully expecting to open this up and have some sort of damage be evident that would preclude me from actually fixing it. It does not appear that this has been opened before. Indeed, the plastic on this side of it is actually intact still. The screws obviously go through the plastic, but they haven't done so before, because the screws haven't tamped the plastic down to the metal. So I'm assuming this has never been opened. It has screws in the back too, like any decent cassette deck would. Derp. I've had a few different cassette decks. My main cassette deck is a Sony ES model. I'm frankly excited to take the plastic off this. Maybe it'll make up for how poor the front of it looks, but I can always smooth that out, or if I need to, probably get a different fascia for the front. Just the two on the back there, and it looks like it's ready to rock. Alright, moment of truth here, I suppose. Let's see. I don't like to pull these up and bend them too much if I can help it. There we go. Just a matter of being stuck up there. Both of them open up by themselves. It's interesting, the transformer's offset there. And it's got this interesting little deal right here. Maybe it's just for adding weight to the lid. I don't know why else that would be there. Yep, each of these has a separate motor, it looks like. And I'm seeing belt residue on Yeah. Yep. This is the age-old problem with older cassette decks of the belts being removed. However, this one, the belt just appears to be loose. Maybe it's broken further down and I can't tell. What I'm going to do is pull this off the tripod. And we'll have a nice close look here. You can see the motor down there with copious amounts. I'm trying to get this in there. You can see the motor down there with copious amounts of belt attached to it. And the, let's see, how can I can't even barely see the roller myself. So this one is totally screwed. This one appears to have the belt intact. It just doesn't work. If I, let's see, if I pull my, I'm going to put the tape in and hit play, and I can see the motor doesn't appear to be spinning at all. I can see the belt on. You can see the main roller there, for lack of a better term. You can see the belt right there. If you look, now that I've got the shadow off of it, there's the belt on the center roller, and there's the motor. I swear the motor's right there. If I can get the light on it, which I'm not appearing to be able to do. Okay, well, I'm not going to waste more time on that. You're looking through the side here, that may be easier. I'm wasting a bunch of time doing this. The big problem is, I see there are two gigantic, if you look down here, there are two gigantic spindles there where the cap stands sit. So there's two separate motors for the two separate spindles for cap stands there. And you can see them on this one as well. There's the belt, which does not extend to the center spindle. So I'm wondering what the deal is with this. If I try to spin one of these cap stands, the belt appears to be something is off here, because the belt does appear to be intact. It indeed does spin every It's interesting. On this side, the belt doesn't go around that cap stand. The cap stand spindle, it just slips along the side of it, but it goes around this one. So it obviously has a mechanism set up there. I'm still trying to get a good look at the motor. Suffice it, there we go. You can see it there. If you see what I'm talking about, it's not focusing very well on it, but anyway, the belt is on. It is intact. It's just unknown as to why it won't spin. Let's push play again. And let's see if I can just convince it. It does not. I feel some resistance if I do that. And you can see it's switching back and forth on both sides. So let's take a stop there. We'll open it up and take a look inside. So at this point we have one working belt. Let's see if we can trick this thing into thinking there's a cassette in there. Let's take a look here and take a look and see if we can find out what happens when a cassette goes in here, because these are obviously for the logic. These little plastic things feel that there's a tape, what kind of tape it is, how long it is, what formulation it is, and they relay that information to the computer, which by way of these little plastic things. So theoretically, I should be able to take a look at this when I close this, see which of these actuate, and be able to trick it into thinking there's a cassette in there. So when I have this open, I'll fool it, push play, and see what happens down inside there. So, taking a look here, that one seems to have gone down. When I close it, there's no visual indication on the control panel that there's a cassette in there. Let's see if we can do some trial and error and see if we can get just not appear. So I wonder if there's anything that actuates with these little tabs on the sides. I'm getting close to the point where I need more light because I'm having to move this phone back and forth. Let's see here. Okay, took a quick cut there. I was able to take a look and see what was going on, and I think I know the problem. What's going on is, now that I've done this, you can see these aren't spinning at all. And one major component is not coming up working properly, is the entire playback stage is not moving up to meet, so where the pinch rollers will meet the cap stands and spin the tape. Push the tape along. Something in the mechanism is not responding, and I think I can see the issue. I think I see, if I look over here, yeah, I see parts down in the bottom there. If you look, there is, right down there where that screwdriver is pointing, you can see there's a spring and another piece there that should not be there. Let's see here. Alright, I take a look here, just as a, yeah. Unless, well, maybe those are supposed to be there. I can't tell. Focus, you stupid. Yeah, see, I'm turning the, I'm not sure if it's slipping on the belt, because the motor is spinning, but it's slipping. The belt is actually slipping inside there. So either the belt's loose, or there's something wrong in the mechanism over here. My idea, my thought is, let's take that belt and put it over here on the other side, which I'm wary of because A, this side doesn't record, and B, that mechanism down there felt like it was difficult to push down, as if there was something stuck in the mechanism. And I don't have any lithium grease to fix that with, so I'm going to take a cut here and take a look at my options. I'm going to do some forum searches, some Google searching, and maybe a little bit of disassembly. Although if I do some disassembly, I will be sure to post it, to film it. So let me do some research on this. Taking a look on the interwebs, what I've found out is this particular model of Aiwa uses what's known as an X3 mechanism, which is apparently used in several different models of Aiwa deck. What I think is going on is that the motor, the belt, is not wrapped around one of the cap stands like it needs to be. I think that it needs to be along both of the, I think it's too loose because it needs to be wrapped around both of the cap stands, and I don't think it is at the moment. Let's see if I can remove these so I can set it down semi-flat. That one probably doesn't need to be removed. Because this being the broken deck, this has pieces of belt wrapped around this capstan spindle, whereas this one, it appears to be going around this spindle and slipping against this one, whereas I think it's supposed to be around both of them. The trick is, I guess I now have to disassemble this, or see if I can carefully pull, which I don't think it can actually. I think I just need to. See, that's the rub. Obviously, this metal piece comes off, but it also holds the motor, which is where the belt goes around. So, do I take one part of it off? Let's see, it slides into these two, well, this one guide right here. But the service manual is online, but it's not particularly helpful because it only has electrical schematics, which are useful, but not in this case because I don't need an electrical schematic. I need a belt path. Now, the Aiwa particular model of Aiwa mechanism appears to be relatively common. But yeah, I think that this second capstan spindle here is spinning very, very loosely. So I think what's happened is somebody installed the belt incorrectly, which it doesn't look like this machine's ever been apart. The screws were intact, the plastic was still on. I think something got stuck and the belt flipped off, but it's very interesting how it flipped off, how it slipped off this capstan reel because of the simple fact that it is still on the path elsewhere. Usually, if it comes off, it just comes off. So, this is delicate, but I really don't think there's any other way to do this. None that I can see anyway, and I haven't. The first screw has been dropped. That always happens. But it's loose now. There it is, I see it. I'll deal with that in a minute. I have a pair of tweezers I'll grab that with. And see, there's the thing. I think this entire front panel needs to come off. Okay, well, let's take the front of this off and we'll get it out. It would read that I would need a larger Phillips head bit because I don't think I have one in this kit. I think these are all small ones. So, let me go get a different screwdriver. Okay. Okay, operation different screwdriver get complete. It's still not quite right size, but I'll have to do. As expected, the ratcheting function of the screwdriver has become more of a hindrance than a help. Unscrewing screws from electronics is one of my least favorite things to do, just simply because of how stressful it is. Something drops down at the wrong time on a charged component, capacitor potentially, could cause a lot of damage. Okay. These three are a lot more forgiving than the first one. And the ratcheting actually came in handy that time. I don't think I need to take off the feet. I think it just come off. Yep, there it goes. Haha. I knew it would come out. hate those things. Little tiny screws in terrible places. Okay, what else needs to be removed for this to, I think, that there are screws on the bottom that need to be removed. That will not work. I need a long bladed screwdriver to do that. Do they really need to be removed? Or do they just sit on those? Possibly. It may just be that those sit. Those aren't actually mounted like that. A great number of minutes of these videos will be spent with me talking to myself. Yeah, I think they do need to be removed. Let me get a proper screwdriver. I'm debuting a new TechThings feature in this video. Light. It's very, very innovative. It allows me to see things without having to go. So, although that is fun, let's take it from here. I went and got a bit driver, and we shall proceed. Now, there are 4 screws on the bottom that are preventing me from gaining access. Lovely magenta colored screws. Aha, it's magnetic too. I did not know that. Okay. These 2 in the center appear to have tabs that hold down wiring. Which is fine. Bits seem to be at a premium in my workspaces. They disappear very quickly. I should have called this the impatient technician because I have very little patience when it comes to this stuff. If it doesn't come loose, and if it's a piece of equipment I'm not terribly bothered about destroying, I do sometimes lose patience and jump ahead. In this case, I have possibly sort of done that as I don't have any real idea of how this comes together and comes apart. So in this case I'm sort of experimenting. I didn't spend very much on this in the first place, so again I wouldn't be terribly bothered if it never went back together again. But it's interesting enough that I want to try to save it. Okay, so this does seem like it's going to come apart, so let's do this. Let's take the wiring off as I look for something to snip these zip ties with. Oh, Mini Leatherman, please save us. Okay, I'm not speaking as or for the Leatherman. I'm just being facetious. Snipping these tiny zip ties so that we can free the wiring here. Have a better and easier time with this. Because I don't want to flip this over and just lay it on the board. I think this is the big rub right here. And if I really want to be picky, I do have some mini zip ties in my bag that I could affix these back together the way they were. Just I really care to do that. Possibly. I don't think there's enough slack. This is acceptable. It's not touching the board, so I'm going to say yes for the moment. Alright, so I think I have enough room there to screw drive this out. Okay, now dropping the screw again. Let's take a look at this. Aha. Okay, so the belt is now falling off, but I should be able to now wrap it around both cap stands. And then back around the motor. This is dangerous because of the likely brittle nature of the belt as it is right now. And the fact that most likely it will attempt to fall off as soon as I try to play it. It's kind of slightly, I don't think that's how it goes. Because it's rolling against that thing. Okay, I've removed the screws here. So let's take a look at this belt. So without the motor in the equation, what we have is this, which looks as if that doesn't, for me that doesn't jibe, because I'm trying to think of how the motor turns and which way it should be driving the belt, which I don't think is this. I don't think that it's supposed to come around the belt this way. Let me take that part off. I don't think. And the problem is, if I put the motor in, it rubs against this coil. I think it was set up correctly. I just think that this belt is likely old and worn out and stretched. It doesn't feel broken or brittle, but it's probably stretched out and just is not at its potential right now. It's not going to work for this particular. So I think the issue is with the belt here. I'm trying to see a way where the belt would come off. Look here. I don't see where there are any screws for this circuit board to come off. And then these appear to go to that whole assembly. These red screws here. So I don't see a way to route the belt without having to remove something in here to get this to route correctly. Unless you just kind of, which I don't. No, I don't see how to do that. So I think I'm going to have to find a service manual for this, or a mechanism manual for the Aiwa X3 mechanism. I think that's the bottom line here. Is it just needs a new belt, and I need to find the manual on how to route the belt properly without destroying this, because these things are very particularly, I would imagine that these cogs would have to be, these gears would have to be properly timed. I'm not sure though. They may just sync up. Bottom line is I need to get a manual for this to properly diagnose it. Because beyond pulling this off, which doesn't appear to come off, it appears to have a capacitor, although what's stopping it here is a capacitor. If I drop it down below that, well, I don't know if that's a capacitor, it's a component of some sort. If I drop it down below that, can I then remove the belt? It just seems to want to ride on it. Without pulling on it too hard, I could probably do it. But I need to have a little bit more light on it, and I need to have a different view on it. No, I think from looking on the bottom it will come out. Yeah, I can see it. If I give it more slack here, it's just a matter of pulling it. The amount of light is annoying here. Oh, there we go. So yes, it does require a little bit of fooling, but the belt appears to be in good shape, just probably stretched out. So that's the bottom line, is this belt is probably stretched out and is not effectively turning these pulleys. And this one appears to be larger than this one. So I think that says to me that the ratios of these say to me that they don't go in unison. This one slips against this one while it turns this one. And that's all she wrote. So I'm going to get a belt for this. 2 of them actually, because this one's busted as well, and clean off all this belt residue on this. And we'll make a part 2. Thanks for watching TechThings. We shall return. So, as a sort of addendum to this saga, since this is going to be sort of a part 1 slash, overview, and I had to switch to my phone because my camera ran out of battery. I think I'm just going to get rid of that thing and just use the phone exclusively, or find a different method of video capture. I found a couple of things out. The feet do have to be removed for it to be to put the faceplate back on, which contains the decks, and it does work. The head doesn't flip around. And I used in lieu of any sort of belt, I used a rubber band just to test. And it sounds absolutely horrible because the rubber band is warped, but it does confirm to me that this deck does work. Now, the problem is that head does not flip around properly like it should. And this deck does still need a belt. I mean, they both need belts. There's no way I'm going to be able to use that. But I need to find out why the head doesn't flip around properly. It just, as you notice, I opened it up and it's cocked slightly. This one is straight on. So what I'm going to end up having to do is probably tear this back apart, take a look at the mechanisms, see if, from what I'm reading, a gear likes to crack on these. This deck is from 1987 or 88, from what I'm reading. So I think that most likely a full refresh of the mechanism, probably with some lithium grease, will help things. I think the mechanism is sticking. It probably just needs greased. So we can do that. But I figured, here's the Boku of parts. This is what we're going to test with. We're going to test the DBX noise reduction with one of these bog standard TDK SA90 tapes, which are some of my favorite blank cassette tapes. This was a gigantic fail. I was trying to run the output of the tape deck through this quadraphonic receiver. It did not work, and I'm not sure why. That may be the focus of a future video, because I was going to use that as a future video to set up and play stuff on, but I think we will go ahead and see how nice this looks without the plastic on it. And it's incredibly satisfying to do this, I tell you what. This is one of my favorite things to do to new electronics. I used to run around electronics stores as a kid, pulling the plastic off of demo items, for example in Sears, when they put new demo items out. This little corner here is being a jerk. Here we go. Like I said, this little tiny corner here, not wanting to come off. Let's take it from the other direction. Problem is, having to hold the camera at the same time makes it a little bit annoying, but still massively fun to do this. Look at that metal flake. Very nice. It's like peeling a sunburn, only way less disgusting. Look at the plastic, how it's yellowed. And I think there are some scratches on the top from where it's been used. It's not a mint piece by any means, but I think it's worth restoring, and it'll be fun to do anyway. Pretty nice. Obviously, a polishes would not go awry, and there's stuff still sticking to the edges here. I would expect this would have been a lot easier to do back in 1987 or 88 or whatever this came out. The interweb posts I read about this all said this was from the late 80s, early 90s. There was a model. This is an 808. There's a 909 as well, which is an up model version of this. I believe it came out the next year. See, this is sticking to this edge right here, just causing all kinds of problems. Does not want to come off. It's doing funny stuff right there too. That is strange. I'm not sure what the deal with that is. It appears to have pulled off the finish. Interesting. Like I said, I'm not terribly worried about ruining something, as this is already sort of a will it be able to be repaired? Is it reparable or is it not? I'm voting yes. It's just too cool to not fix, but it definitely does. It is going to require some. It's going to require some doing, because A, I'm not terribly familiar with it. I'm not a guru. I'm not an expert. I have repaired cassette decks before. I've been doing this since I was a young child, because I grew up with cassettes. The coolest thing I could do when I was a kid was go to Meijer with a relative and con them into buying me cassette tapes so I could take them out of the package, which was really fun. Oh, that's just satisfying right there. Look at that. It was perforated so that the grill would still be functional even if you didn't remove the plastic, which I guess the previous owner thought was important, is leaving the plastic on. Well, I'm not as crazy about plastic. I think it looks terrible. It looked terrible. This will make it look at least an order of magnitude nicer, even with the front fascia being scratched up. Yeah, this is not an easy task. Yeah, I thought this would be neat to finish out the video with. It is turning into the most annoying thing ever because A, I'm having to hold this camera, or the phone really, while I do it, and B, it's just sticking everywhere, as sticky plastic is wont to do, I suppose. Anyway, I really appreciate you watching TechThings. I'm not sure what the schedule of video releasing is going to be, as the previous video was probably a month ago, but the I guess the PowerBook rebuilding video, and this one will probably not have a follow-up for another month because I need to order a belt and figure out why the mechanism is funky. But hearing music, hearing sound coming from it is promising. The fact that it does still sort of work. I would imagine that the tape heads would need a good demagnetizing. And obviously it will need a better belt than a rubber band. But knowing that the mechanism still works and it still plays is promising. The last bit is being removed. I see it's all the way on the bottom of this. Ta-da! Oh, it's this little valley. Hang on. Let's focus that, yeah. Because that's just fun right there. That is uber satisfying. Whoop. Ah. I know there are people out there that like to watch this. I like to do it myself. It's not terribly satisfying to watch, but it was almost worth the money I spent on this thing just to do that. Look at that. It's like dead skin. It's disgusting. I will pay somebody $10 to eat this. That's not, that is null and void in the 50 U.S. states and anywhere else in the world. I can talk, I swear. So that was fun. Not sure what this is. I'm going to try to investigate. But look at how much nicer that looks. Even with the defects. Just looks way nicer. So, I'll probably put this back together while I wait on a belt kit, and I'll probably pull this deck apart, see what happens, see if the mechanism is truly borked, because we did see those parts sticking out, but I think they're supposed to be there. So, but in any case, thanks for watching TechThings, and I will follow this video up with a part 2, I suppose.